All right. We just came back from watching 28 Years Later. And when I mean we have a special guest today. It's the lad we always talk about movies with at work. He's our favorite theater kid. It's Matthew McNamara, everybody. Give him a round of applause. Let's go. First podcast on the fake Cine-Files. Let's get it.
That's high praise, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This was obviously I'm excited to talk about this movie. It was a pleasure to watch this movie with you. I'm usually more of a lone wolf when it comes to movies, but this was a good one because you guys are very good theater guests. Where we were talking a lot during the trailers when we thought we were going to be the only people in the theater. That ended up not being the case, but luckily, it's a horror movie, so there was a little chirps here and there. I was very excited to see Brett's reactions and throughout, which we'll talk about more. But yeah, pleasure going to the movies with you guys.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you came with us. It's always nice to get more of a Cine-Files view on these things. So we'll start from that point of view. This movie, compared to the first in its genre and in its series, 28 Days, it's shot completely differently. It's shot in a much clearer form. It's so much more vivid. It is done in a completely different style as far as the killing, the violence, the weight, the everything. As far as the cinematography goes, what were your guys' initial thoughts before we jump into story or anything else just about the cinematography?
I thought this was one of the best shot movies of the year. Now, I'm excited about Formula One. I think that's going to bring a whole entire new spin to racing movies as a whole. But this cinematography was so beautiful to watch. I honestly was tearing up, not at the most emotional scenes, but just by the set designs and the beautiful nature of this movie in probably one of the scariest places that I was so scared, and this movie gave me everything. But the cinematography, the way it was edited, the beginning, how we talk about the trailer so much because it was one of the best trailers of the year. It really gets you hyped up. But the way they incorporated the World War II poem in the beginning and how they edited with the shots from previous medieval times, World War II shots.
Yeah.
I thought it immediately locked me in right from the start. And I feel like this was one of the most critical movies of the franchise because I felt the scope of the world was just absolutely. I felt like when you go to the mainlands of Europe, it's just so beautiful. And I loved every second of it. I loved the cinematography in this movie. I thought it should get nominated for an Oscar for sure because the editing and everything just incorporated so well. The cinematography was amazing.
I just wanted to say, because Anthony Dodd Mansell, cinematographer for this movie, also the cinematographer for 28 Days Later, which is kind of like eye-opening because, as you said before, Gavin, like it is shot so differently than the first one. I remember seeing a tweet even before because I watched the first two movies for the first time very recently, like actually this past week. And I remember seeing a tweet even before that saying like the first movie was because it was 2002. So it was very much of like that early internet age. And they were saying that it felt like they wanted to shoot this movie as if like you shouldn't be seeing this. Like this should be popping up on the dark web, internet. Like, and it matches the tone of the movie very well and like the brutal sort of reality of like what they're trying to go for. And there is some of that in this movie for sure, but there's a lot of different things that they're able to pull off in a lot of different like camera techniques and stuff like that, which we'll talk about later in this podcast. But like, I just overall, like, as you said, Brett, it's a very good point about like the difference between like going from the mainland to like what their community was. It's just kind of eye opening because I think like it kind of matches the story of how it's eye opening to the kid when he's seeing the mainland for the first time, which is a big part of the story of this 100%. Movie, is seeing it through his eyes and like, seeing forests and seeing beaches and all these different kind of landmarks that we all take for granted in our current society, but based on this world, it's just very well done overall.
I agree, and it's a testament to the differences in the cinematography capabilities in between the last 23 years. Because like you said, it's the same guy working on this. And so the idea that in 2002 this is dark web, this is stuff you're not supposed to be seeing, and it's shot that way, you see that and you get to experience it. But now everything is so diluted in the sense that we see war and other things on TV, and there's a great reference to that in The Greatest Beer Run Ever, which is, Tom Hanks saying, well, war is not supposed to be televised, and you're not supposed to see this kind of grotesque violence on TV. And nowadays we run around going like, yeah, this is the kind of violence and stuff we see on TV. And so in a way, I think it's a nice commentary on when we first did this in 2002, this was not the kind of stuff that you were seeing on TV, but it's different now. And so in a sense, he's sticking with that story of you shouldn't be seeing it, but you are. And so instead of giving you the same look at it that we gave you in 2002, I'm going to make it crystal clear. I'm going to let you see every speck of detail, every drop of sweat, every little speck of dust on the skulls on this tower. I'm going to let you see everything. And it's even a bigger commentary on what that is overall. And that kind of look into it just from the cinematography standpoint is such a big look into where the movie is headed in its trilogy and what kind of possibilities it has to open up to. And it's a nice little segue into characters. There were a lot and also a few characters in this film. One of the best characters in this film, though, is 12.
Oh my God, he was unbelievable. Alfie Williams as Spike. I'm gonna say this right now. He's the best protagonist I've ever seen written on the screen. It was unbelievable to see him act and portray this character that was growing up, and he found a great comedic but also like serious tone, and like I love coming to age stories, and the way he was able to kind of like portray that on the screen was unbelievable. I mean, he made me laugh so hard and made me so emotional at the same time. I mean, the fact that he's this young and is in this big of a franchise of a movie, and the way he performed was unbelievable. I have to give him his flowers because it was amazing. And also, is it Jodie Comer? Jodie Comer killed it. Yeah. I mean, I loved her performance in Bike Riders. She should get nominated for something. I believe it's going to be a Golden Globe, in my opinion, because I don't think the Oscars. I will have so much beef with you if you do not nominate them for. If they get Doom Part 2'd, I'm going to be unbelievably so mad. But it was the characters in this movie, the relationship building. The thing that we talked about between 28 days and 28 weeks is that you in 28 days, there's these characters that you care about so much and you want to see their stories like fleshed out. In 28 weeks, every single best character, in my opinion, just gets killed off and you don't get to see their stories fleshed out. In this, I felt every single character got a moment to shine, from the most least important character to the most important character. It was great writing, great storytelling, great acting. I mean, Aaron Taylor Johnson, one of my favorite. I love him in Bullet Train. He thrived in this as well, and they honestly took him out of the film halfway through, and it was able to just, you're almost like pushed into, all right, Spike, it's time to grow up. And I am on the edge of my seat the whole entire time while he's on this journey with Ilsa, his mother. I mean, you talk about a relationship between a son and a mother in this movie, you're going to cry. I mean, it's amazing. The writing, the character development, me and Gavin always talk about, character development is one of the most important things that we talk about in movies. This has everything. I loved it so much, and I think it's one of the most important character stories of the franchise. I think it just pushes it forward, and the way they were just hitting every single beat, in my opinion, of emotion, laughter, it makes you feel everything. And that's what I love the most about this movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Brett. There are a lot of good points there. It's also impressive for a legacy sequel to bring you these characters from scratch, essentially, and not feel the need to, like, oh, this character is related to this one, or oh, this character is this because of this other story we had before. I really well done, fleshed out characters. I mean, obviously, as you said before, with what Spike was able to pull off with this coming of age story, which is crazy that like a movie of this nature like is able to do so well with the coming of age story and its focus. Spike, what he's able to pull off as a performance and a character, you know, a lot of the times there's so much pressure on a lead actor in a kid's role to, like, sometimes they go too far towards the mature adult side. Sometimes they go too far to the other side where they're too bratty as a kid. The way that he was able to balance this sort of a kid who is a kid and is acting like a kid, but has to grow up, I thought, terrific performance. I'm very excited to see what they do next. I mean, I think what I admire about it, and this is what I admire about a lot of movies, is when a lot of the other characters that show up that, like, don't get as much screen time and don't get as many lines, but, like, they feel lived in, and they feel like they're built. You feel like there's a backstory for each of them, and you feel like you understand their purpose, their role in the society, because that's a big part of the beginning of the movie, is the society that they're living in, and, like, who the hierarchy of everything that goes on there, and it's established so well with so few lines and details that, like, I don't feel like they trust the audience.
Right, and that's a good way to describe it, is trusting the audience, because when you're doing world building like this and it's a post-apocalyptic world, oftentimes there's a half an hour of we've got to show you every single detail of what's going into this world building. You know, we got to show you the world falling apart. We got to show you people killing each other. We got to show you the looting and the destruction and the infection running rampant. And we got to show you all this stuff. And 28 days didn't do that. 28 weeks didn't really do that. And 28 years is the exact same way. They pop you into this little village on this remote island, and you get a couple of sort of the important details of what they're doing.
They throw in like that one like page of like narration of like, hey, here's what just happened.
Right.
You know, like this is what's going on, and then they're like, all right, now go ahead.
Yep.
Right. And then boom, there's this village, and you see everybody contributes. There's, you know, you see their wall of available jobs, what people can or can't do, but it doesn't take 45 minutes of we've got to waste this part of the movie trying to explain to you this is how things work. You get 10 or 15 minutes max in the entire 2-hour runtime of a movie, and they go, you know enough. Trusting you with the rest of this. Now we're just going to get going.
Yeah. It's great.
And it's great because then we get so much more of the actual story, which is what you go to the movies for. And this is where I'm going to bring up the movie that I told you both about outside of the theater, and I refuse to tell them the title when we're talking about characters, especially young characters who portray emotional weight, coming-of-age stories really well. And it's a Stephen King project. It's It. Chapter 1 and 2. Those kids all did a really good job of portraying kids who had to go through extremely tough emotional weight and grow up and not carry their traumas and go through these coming-of-age stories to be able to build into the people that they are, which is a similar story to what we're seeing here. Different circumstances, different characters, different world, but another group of characters who did it really well. Why this one's so much more impressive to me is you had 5 in the Stephen King movies. Alfie did it all by himself. He had his mom who was losing her mind and thought that, you know, hey, that's my dad I'm talking to. But he did it all on his own, and they did such a good job of working with him and getting him to stretch that character to what it needs to be and working with him to do that he executed it great by himself. And it's something, I don't know if you take out each one of the Stephen King characters and put them on their own, that they do on their own, which is why I find it even more impressive that he was able to go out and go, yeah, give me that one kid and we're going to make him the central plot of the entire story.
And the clash of cultures in this film is the way they portray it is so awesome. First, you're introduced to Spike, and then he's going out into the mainland for the first time, and everyone's congratulating him, being like, here you go, like, this is it, this is your first time going out to the mainland, lad,
it's
good
a
luck.
little call to action, which is kind of funny that it happens so early in the movie.
And they're like...
It's also now, very Viking culture, which that part of the world is very interesting because
very Northman,
it's very Northman.
And then when you have Eric and Spike talking about, he has a phone or like they're talking about like more or less the real world and it's like the modern world and Spike doesn't even know what he's talking about. I was laughing the whole entire time during those sequences. It was he goes, I don't even know what you're saying right now. He's talking about stockbrokers and he has a phone and he goes, oh, it's on 1%. And he goes, I don't even know what that is. And he's like, do you guys have radio? No. And he's like, do you guys have pictures?
There
he's
is,
like,
it is interesting,
one.
like the generational gap thing too, because I feel like, and that's why I like the casting of Aaron Taylor Johnson, is because like he feels like, and he might be a little bit older, but based on his character, it definitely feels like he was around Spike's age when this all happened.
Right.
And so he had to then adapt, but he still knows a world where, you know, there was like technology and cell phones and internet and all that stuff. It's kind of what they kind of go in with Last of Us, with Ellie's character, and how she was very much like, you know,
Last of Us take notes.
True, but like it is something they address. It's something they do. They try and do in Last of Us too. Is like
Right.
the generational gap between her and Joel, of like someone who has lived in the world prior and someone who has only lived in this world.
Right, and it's an interesting comparison because, and we're gonna talk about it when we do our little spin ahead to the other movies, but it's the difference of Spike is living in this world that is so secluded and that's all he knows, and the rest of the world kind of seems to be functioning like it normally would. Like everybody's sort of just going on. He's got cell phones. You know, this guy's got an ex-fiance who's got so much Botox that Spike's like, oh my gosh, no, I got a girl in the village who has this allergy problem just like her. Like there's plants that can help that. But even that comment right there was so funny because I was like, he's not going like, oh, don't worry, we got Benadryl. He's going like, don't worry, we've got a salve for that.
It's like she's allergic to shellfish or something. Like, it's so funny. It's just so great.
It's great. Yeah, have some comedy.
But for the purpose of this, it all goes kind of against and very much opposite of what we did with Final Destination. Final Destination sort of fit right in with what you expect out of how you would categorize a horror film. And Final Destination is its own subgenre of horror film anyway. Each one has its own little thing. But normally when you think of zombie movies, you don't think of these movies with great character development, great world building, great story, great emotional weight, good comic relief, and all of these things in it. And this is one of the few, and me and Mac talked about this while you were making your pizza, but, you know.
I was hungry.
It's fine. You can be hungry. But, you know, you go back to the best of the horror genre. And the zombies almost act as set pieces surrounding the story that's actually being told. And that's almost what this was, and that's Night of the Living Dead. That's other great classics that you look at and you go, this is kind of bending what you would expect in the horror genre, but it's almost how these stories should be told. The scary things can be there, whether it's zombies or ghosts or ghouls or take your pick. But they almost should be set pieces around the masterpiece of story that needs to be told. And I think 28 Years Later did a perfect job of doing exactly that in this movie.
The makeup and the zombies are the best in the series.
Yeah, let's not downplay it. Like we're not, but like the zombies are like really cool and are a big part of the movie.
They are,
but but it's not just about the zombies.
Exactly.
And I'll bring up Last of Us. Last of Us, they are just there, sort of. Even season 1. I'll counteract that, especially season 1. Season 1, you see zombies 2 episodes, basically, and you see a couple of them, and they're kind of in there. You play the video game for Last of Us, and zombies are in everything that you do. Now, the structure for a video game makes it so if you only saw zombies for like 2 hours of your video game playing time, it would suck. So, that makes sense. But when you come in, you want to see them inhabit the world. And in 28 Years Later, they inhabit the world. I mean, they are everywhere. They're a part of the society. They're a part of how they guard their communities. They're a part of how they scavenge and forage for food, how they raise their children. I mean, we get a scene in the village where you've got kids as young as 8 and 9 years old wielding bows and arrows and shooting them at targets dressed up like zombies. I mean, it is very much woven into who they are as a people, but they're not the focus of the film.
I know.
It's the story that's the focus of the film, and that's where it shines.
And the thing, and the story, like, the plot thickens when they expand sort of like the zombies like purpose in the film. Like, when I'll spoil this like part of it, but like I thought this is when the film just got so revved up, was when the zombie gave birth, and then Ilsa is there like basically having this like emotional moment of like being there and like consoling the zombie as it gives birth, and then Spike showing up and seeing this moment, and then seeing that the baby isn't infected. It's those chances and taking those risks are just what I appreciate the most about this movie. And it was such a great, I thought, not only did it like make it the movie like more emotional and have more stakes, but taking those chances and then expanding, and then the alpha being introduced as well, bring like another sort of like menacing. And I mean, when the alpha is literally running on the shore towards Aaron Taylor Johnson's character and then Spike and his dad, I mean, it's literally horrifying. I'm literally sitting there just like, oh my God, just get to the gate. Just get to the gate. Just get to the gate. And then it's that, I feel like, just gave it more of a horror type of like feel to it. And I mean, like, all the movies previously like were super scary, and I felt like they had a lot of jump scares, but this just gave it way more of like a physical horror of like the alpha ripping people's heads off, and then when they're in a dark tunnel and he's turning, and then the alpha just shows up and then basically literally overpowers 3 humans. And it's the zombies in this movie, and then also the cutaways from the changing of Red to like where it's like they're just eating things, and it's it's so menacing.
No, there's a lot of those like what's it called, like splicing in. A lot of good splices in this movie. But yeah, it's definitely a good point. I mean, it's just like you said before, like ripping out the spinal cord. Like, this movie does not shy away from like the graphic violence, which is like, and not to say like it's not the purpose of the graphic violence is not just let's show graphic violence. Like, it's crucial to the story and like building up like the threat of these characters and like what they have to deal with, and like the brutality, I think, is the biggest thing that's focused upon in this movie. And I think it really raises the stakes, as you said before, because all these characters, again, they're new. Like, we don't know when they could die, or they could be killed in the first scene or the second scene or third scene. We don't really understand until it gets later on, when we really understand that it is Spike's story, that like what's the purpose of like the story itself.
Right, and I'll make the argument that the brutality of it, given the pregnancy scene and the birth, gives the extra human side to the zombies that you don't normally get so much extra weight. Because when you look at the brutality of the alpha ripping people's spines clean out of their bodies, but then when he comes by and he sees the pregnant zombie, post-birth, no child, you can see the pain on his face immediately.
It's really well
and he flips into a rage. Yeah. And it's clear he's not angry about, oh my gosh, just nothing. That's my kid.
Emotional stakes.
It's emotional stakes. And it gives them a side that otherwise, and throughout the entire series, it's not been communicated. They're mindless. They can't think. They can't do, they're unintelligent, they're just crazed by this virus. Yeah. And this alpha is now paternal?
Yeah, but this also, I think that was the emphasis they want to have, is like these alphas, zombies, are like, they're like I don't know if free thing's the right word, but like, they're advanced.
Right,
not
they're
only
adaptive.
Advanced physically, advanced mentally. So I think that's what's really communicated.
And then, this is a perfect segue into Ray Fiennes' character, Dr. Kelson. I mean, what a character. And not only did he have sort of this like menacing and sort of like humoristic sort of feel when he was on the screen, But we all know Ray Fiennes is probably one of the best actors like of our generation for sure. I mean, he's got the accolades and everything. But when he is introduced into this movie, you're immediately like, let's go. Like, this is going to take a whole nother level of writing, of set design. I don't even know, what was his, where, like, all the bones and everything was stacked up? Because I remember when Spike asked him about it, and then he just goes, finally, somebody gets to ask me about that. And it's just those little things, and you're dealing with a person, like, that's an expert in the mainlands and an expert to his environment. I mean, what was the stuff that
the memento remore?
Yeah. But you're saying like what's the
stuff he slathered him with?
I should know this because it's iodine.
Iodine.
Because like he looks like a character out of like Apocalypse Now.
Right.
Literally.
But like he's like, there's a purpose to this. It keeps them away.
Exactly.
Right.
Because when you first see him, it's like it's from Aaron Taylor Johnson's character's perspective, where he's like, oh, I just see this guy like carrying these bunch of bodies and laying them out, and then like waves to us with like a menacing grin, and you're like, and in the back of your head, you're like, okay, because like I could see like two ways about it, because you said as it's established he is a doctor, so it's like that seems a little strange, but you never know because Ray Fiennes has played so many different characters, and a lot of them have been villains, so it is that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Ray Fiennes is like a major villain in this role, but like. Then you get him, and like the actual character introduction for him, where he saves them and is able to neutralize the big alpha, is like, okay.
He called him Jamie, the alpha, and then he goes, yeah, I've known him for about 3 years now. He's like, we gotta move. It was like hilarious.
Yeah, it's par for the course.
It is
right.
so funny.
Pacifies him. Doesn't kill him. Literally puts him full of trank and goes, we'll let him sleep. We ought to get out of here because in like 9 hours he's gonna wake up or something.
But then even then, like you walk into like the skeleton yard and you're like, what's going on here? But then he explains it and you're like, it's weird, but like I get it, you know?
It's the kind of clarified post-apocalyptic crazy that you would expect somebody who's spent their entire life around death in the medical service to fall into. Is it still a little crazy? Sure. But does it make sense for his profession? Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Like I could get on board. I don't know that I totally agree, but like I can connect the dots to get there enough. And it's his way of memorializing the people that were lost. And you go, okay, that's beautiful. And then when we spin into, spoiler alert, mom has cancer.
Yeah, I mean,
and the heartbreak of that scene and him officially diagnosing her and letting her know that it's not just breast cancer, but it's brain cancer. And her deciding to give her son a trank in her moment of clarity, realizing that it's cancer, to let him basically kill her so that way the cancer doesn't take her. So that way he can give the skull of her to her son to memorialize her. It's a moment you don't get in horror films. And I mean, I'd say
I've ever seen.
Hundreds of horror films I've watched, this might be the second or third ever I've actually cried in.
Yeah,
I cried.
I mean, how can you not?
I mean,
it's like, you know, regardless of like your life experiences, like the way it's done, it's not rushed. It's very like deliberate. It's very like peaceful. There's no like swelling of music. It just plays out the way it plays out in front of you, and the performances. Obviously, Jodie Comer we talked about before. The way she accepts it, and the way that she's just like, all right, this is what I gotta do, and the way the son is tranquilized, but he's like kind of calm, but also like a little nervous because he knows what's about to happen and wants like his realization of it. But then like once it's final, and you know death is finite, that whole thing. And he gets that skull, and he climbs to the top and puts it at the very top with the sun and the face. It's just gorgeous, and we'll talk about it later. But like there's several like ways this movie could have ended. Like I would have been satisfied if the movie ended that way.
I mean Spike, and then Ilsa, and then them dealing with that together was so emotional. And the whole entire time when Ray finds Dr. Kelson is like introduced, and we were basically introduced to that part of the film, my jaw was on the floor and I was just hypnotized to the screen. I mean, I literally, once that movie was over, And once that sequence was over, I was like, this is why you go to the theater to watch movies. Because it was just, you could not take your eyes off the screen and you could not believe what you were watching. It is the best death scene I've ever seen. I mean, listen, I get it. You could probably argue me on that, but I think it's the best death scene I've ever seen in a film, ever. And it made me so emotional. I was literally jaw to the floor, tears just coming down my eyes, and I was crying the whole entire time, and just emotionally, an emotional high I've never had in my life watching a movie. And the fact that it happened during a horror film is insane to me. And the fact that I'm saying, this is not even kidding, my favorite sequence and favorite scene in a film, and the horror genre is probably my least favorite, is insane to me and just speaks volume to how good this film is. I mean, you have to go see it in a theater. If you don't go see it in a theater, you're not going to get the whole emotional weight, in my opinion. You have to go see this in a theater, and every single actor should be proud of themselves for the way they depicted that. The score, the music, the pace of it all. It was just beautiful. It was so well done, and it has to get the credit it deserves, the flowers it deserves, because you legit, when the sun is setting and he puts the skull on top of the tower, I legit was like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. Right when he does that, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I get it. You can have different opinions, but I mean,
right.
I love me Quentin Tarantino. I love me Christopher Nolan. I love me Wes Anderson. I love me David Fincher. But that was the greatest scene I've ever seen. It was unbelievable.
It's great. It's just great to have those theater experiences. This is why we preach, go to the theater to see these movies, and that's not even counting. We talked about cinematography before. The sound mix of this movie is insane. What they're able to pull off, because besides the music, besides the way everyone sounds, just those little eerie things in the background that just kind of creep in, and it sets the scene for everything. When they're in the forest and you're the crawling, every scene there's some sort of suspense built just from the sound. But agreed. I think the way they're able to blend the tone of this movie, and we'll talk more about the genres this movie covers, the tonality of this movie being able to shift between one scene where we're laughing you're laughing our what's off because of a guy not understanding what a cell phone is, to that, it's just that's a tough task to ask for anyone.
Well, in any genre, because, I mean, you look at that, and there are so many movies out there that have tried to go, okay, we're going to tell a really great story. It's going to be emotional. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. It's going to make you feel angry. It's going to make you anxious. It's going to do all this. And some of them will hit one of those really great. Some of the really, really great ones hit 2 or 3. So few of them hit all of them. And this is one of those movies where you go, each section of the movie had its own designated portion, and they dedicated that portion of the film specifically to this, and it all flowed so well together that you never really thought anything was out of place. And even spinning towards the end, that scene, it could have been the end of the movie. But then we get to spin forward, and he goes and drops Baby Isla off at the doorstep of his town, and he leaves a letter for his father saying, I'm going to go and explore. And he's kind of completing his hero's journey. He's developed skills. He's going to go, but then he gets cornered by zombies, and we get one of the cooler moments of the movies, a nice little cameo right at the end where we get a spin around from the very beginning of the movie. This kid that we see from the very beginning who, in the middle of watching Teletubbies, of all things, watches all of his cousins.
Let's establish it's 2002. What's the best way we can do that?
Right, 2002. Who can we think of? All right, name drop Teletubbies. Done. We're in. And, his mom gets grisly murdered. His dad, who's a priest, is in the church, and he gets eaten.
What a performance he gave, too. I don't even know the actor's name. But he was on the screen for 5 seconds, and it was just so,
This
awesome.
one you'll appreciate. If you guys ever listen to the Ringer Rewatchables, they have a category called the Dion Waiters Award, which is just, chucking up, three... Like a supporting actor who comes in and, just chucks up threes for, whatever else. Whether they make it or not, that kind of falls in that realm.
It does. And You literally see him for the first 5 minutes of the film. He hides in a grate inside the church, and then you don't see him until the final 5 minutes of the movie. And he's wearing the cross. It's upside down. He's got on this ridiculous Swedish tracksuit, and they're like flipping around, all acrobatic.
It's very cyberpunk.
Very cyberpunk.
It's Power Rangers.
And
I mean, it's so
it's
good.
Power Rangers. It's cyberpunk. It's
Teletubbies. It's all.
Some Teletubby colors in there. Yeah.
And you get this post-apocalyptic thing, and the movie closes out with him menacing, sort of teeth all craggled up, kind of a not great looking guy, but saved his life, going, we should be pals. And then roll credits right there. And it just, you look at that and you go, okay, even that felt like it belonged there. It didn't feel out of place. We just came from an emotional dialogue where he's giving it, to his father. But then you spin him forward and boom, immediately, if the next movie was out, which doesn't come out till January 11th, I'm ready to now step right into the next movie and keep going forward. And it does it so well. And again, you start that beginning of the movie and you go, this kid's in it for 5 minutes, and then I don't see him. And you think, well, that was ridiculous. What do I need to see that for? This is another one of those horror movie throwaways. And they go, no, don't worry. I got those characters. They're coming back.
But they also sprinkle them in throughout the movie, but you don't realize it because there's like the Jimmy thing over, like kind of hangs over it for two scenes where there's one scene where it's like tattooed in a guy that the kid has to kill.
I do forget
and then in
that.
the barn, there's something, I don't remember the exact line, but it's like Jimmy something something.
Oh, yes,
So
yes. It's actually a Bible verse. He comes on the clouds, and then right next to he, they put Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yes, I actually did see that.
Very well done. Because when
done.
we got to the ending of that movie, I was like, oh, Jimmy, okay, this is interesting. Jimmy, all right. I'm sure they're going to hit that arrow somewhere. And by the time we had everything else that happened, I forgot about the Jimmy thing long enough for that when he says, I'm Jimmy, you're like, wow.
Me and Mac, when we saw his necklace, my jaw was on the floor, and I just go, I love, one of my favorite shows of, 2025 this year. I love a good bookend, they introduce something to me in the beginning, and then they pay it off right at the end. I love it so much. And they killed, and honestly, that's crazy to me because I noticed, I was like, why the heck is Jimmy written on the side of when
it's that cottage building.
One infected is hanging down.
Yeah, but you
and
can't
Jimmy's
tell
on the
exactly
side.
what it said. It's
I know.
covered up, so you're like, at first I honestly thought I was like, does that say yummy? I'm like,
Yeah.
But then you see IMMY, you're like, okay.
It also gives me very Walking Dead Negan vibes. Because when you think about that show, for those of you who have seen it, you got little hints that he was around. Now, I haven't kept up with the show much past him bashing skulls in, so I don't know how well he turned out to be as a villain in the long run, because I know he's got his own show with somebody else now. But I feel like that's what we're getting out of Jimmy, is you get these little hints. You get it scribbled into a body. You get it scribbled on the side of the church. You get these little hints, and in the next one, you're going to see how much power, A, he's got, and B, how destructive he's really been on the mainland all around. Which is a good way to spin us forward to what are your guys' theories? Because this is a trilogy, so there's going to be three of these movies. This is one. We're getting 2 in January, and we don't have a date yet for the finale. What are we expecting out of movie 2 and movie 3?
I mean, I think you're going to be getting more action and more fun, comedic humor just by the ending of the film. I think it's going to be a completely different tone shift. But I mean, I don't really know, because I didn't even know there was going to be a trilogy until you brought it up. But I mean, I just have to say, I think Cillian Murphy is one of my favorite creative people in Hollywood right now, because the fact that he was an executive producer and helped out with this film, amazing. But I'm excited to see where they go from here, because I think this is a great first movie. It's a great floor. I mean, I'm saying this is one of the best movies I've seen in my lifetime. So it's going to be hard to go up from here. But I mean, the way they're locked in to where they see this franchise going, and you kind of talked about the world building and what they're going to be connecting in 2 and 3. I'm interested to see how they connect days and how they connect like the tribes and like different cultures, and then like you said, like if they end up going to like the whole entire world instead of, you know, all in Europe, I feel like I'm really excited to see where they go from there and like the world building and them raising the stakes more and more and more is going to be interesting to see how they do that in 2 and 3. But I think this was a perfect start to the second edition basically of the franchise. I loved it so much, and it was a great start, and I can't wait to see what they do in 2 and 3.
Yeah, I'm just excited to like just kind of see where they go because I really don't know, to be honest, and I think that's great. I think to like have like so many possibilities with the world building they've already done and the characters they've already used. I think I'm just excited to see like what the journey for Spike will be moving forward, if he's really going to be the centerpiece of this franchise, because you've got the coming of age story. Now he's got to really step into and continue the hero's journey. I'm assuming they'll obviously stick with Alfie Williams because why not? Like, you know, he's going to be growing with the character. I'm just really excited to see like how he fits in to everything else, and I'm assuming it's going to eventually lead to him being like a big leadership position in whatever sort of events take place. It's just really exciting to see what challenges and like what stakes are brought to his character.
I have a running theory that I discussed with Mac. I think, if you remember, because you just watched these, we all watched these movies a couple days ago. It's Brett's fault. He's been doing this a lot for movies we go see that have prequels or that we haven't seen in a while, especially for pre-makes.
It's the way to go.
I like it, yeah.
It's a good strategy.
Good refresher.
It is. So I watched him. Cillian Murphy and his little group that survives the military encampment at the end of that movie make a hello sign and they get spotted. My theory is that plane picks them up and that Cillian is a carrier and immune, and he is who ends up spreading it to the rest of the world. And that's how we get the overall large expansion of what's coming from that side of the story. On the inside of the island, I think you get to see Alfie and Jimmy start to prep a Game of Thrones-esque power imbalance on the island.
I would love that.
Where you get to see people start to realize that it's not just these peaceful little cities all around, but there's good tribes and there's really, really, really not good tribes. And so you get to follow the breakdown of the rest of the world, which we didn't get to see in any of these other films, while at the same time watching the power struggle of the people who've been surviving in this sort of post-apocalyptic world for the last 28 years. With it accumulating in the incredible epic epilogue in the 5th movie.
I'll just say this too. I'm just excited to see Jimmy in the next one. I mean, how they teased his character, and they pan up, and this man's wearing a jumpsuit and just chains on his neck, and I'm like, oh my god, what? Like, we just went from like bows and arrows to this lad being like, get him, guys, and it's just 360s.
Yeah, what if 5 is just the Jimmy story?
I know, it's
like who would complain? I mean, let's shout out Jack O'Connell because like he's been in 2 of probably the biggest and best movies of the year between this and Sinners, and like just stealing the show every time. So very happy for him and very excited to see more of him for sure.
Oh my god, I just can't wait to see Spike and his development as a character. I think they're gonna kill it. I mean, to be honest with you, I always say this. Kill Bill to me is like the closest thing we're going to get to a live action anime film. I'm a big anime nerd. I love anime so much. I always say this. I think Kill Bill is the best, probably like comparison to a live action anime style film that we'll get. I think 28 Years Later is probably, even though it's not based on a video game, I think it's like the closest thing we're going to get to like a masterpiece of like a video game style sort of like journey sort of movie. I'm just like, sort of if you're comparing it, because the relationships, the characters, and sort of the adventure that he gets to go on, and it's kind of like you're going on like side quests and it constantly is moving and getting harder and harder. I think the best comparison I could say to like a different sort of creative medium is it's the closest thing we're gonna get to a masterpiece of a video game style movie, and it's amazing to see. I love the movie so much. I mean, we've talked for like 50 minutes now. Do you guys want to do your scores? I mean, I'll start it off here. It's an 11 out of 10. I mean, it's the best movie I've seen probably in my lifetime. I'm just going to say it right now. I'm probably recency biased, just freaking out because I saw this in the theater and the high I got from it. But I truly think there is nothing to nitpick about this movie. I thought it was perfect. I thought the acting was on point. I thought the writing was on point. The cinematography. I mean, we talked about everyone was hyping up. They were using 20 iPhones, and you could see when every single time they shot someone with a bow and arrow, how they utilized those iPhone shots. I thought the chances they took, the world building, and the importance this film took, or the importance this film is to this franchise, it's going to be known. And it was absolutely amazing. Loved every second of it. It's an 11 out of 10 for me. You got to go see it in the theater. If you don't go see it in the theater, you're not going to get the full experience. 11 out of 10. Loved it so much. Everyone should be proud that was associated with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I usually do. I'll go more like, because it's so tough when you get to like those like tens where it's like that. I definitely like for now off first viewing. You know, it's still like a lot of time to like sit with me. If I'm going on Letterboxd, I'm going 5. I'm going 5 out of 5. You know what I mean? Which could like again like does that mean like it's fine because I think it's fine because like you know a lot of 5 out of 5 movies it doesn't mean like you know it's your favorite movie of all time, but it just means like out of 5 stars, I'm gonna give it 5 stars for the chances it takes, for what it pulls off. Like there's so many different things that I can compliment, and there's very few, if anything, I can say negative about this movie just on first viewing. I'll go with the 5-star rating and go 5 out of 5.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 9.6. It's very, 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 very good. Horror films rightfully probably don't get as much credit as they ever deserve. And that's because I think when most people go into them, you go into it like, and I'm going to pick on you for a quick second here, but then we'll get past it because, you know, you gave it an 11 out of 10.
Go for it.
But you go into it a lot like Brett went into this movie where he was like, dude, this movie is going to wreck me. This is going to be awful. I'm not going to be able to handle it. I can't do it. This movie is going to be so tough. I'm not going to enjoy it. Oh my gosh. But then when you have horror movies do things like this and tell amazing stories, and to people who don't like horror movies like Brett go, no, I'd watch that again. In fact, I can't even wait for the next one. January needs to come sooner because it was that good. You're doing so many things right, and it gets people in to see movies. And great movies don't necessarily need to abide totally within their genre.
Yeah.
And this movie, I feel like does a really, really good job of that. So 9.6, there are some things that, you know, you leave me with some interesting questions and some things like that. And there's
you wonder in like the context of the trilogy if it would change. You know what I mean? Based on the rest of the way the trilogy goes, because that's how they're phrasing it. It's like it's a trilogy. So like
right,
there could be some things that like we look back on and are like, wow, I didn't see that coming in a good way, or maybe in a bad way if they're not able to pull it off in that way. But I do agree with like. For me personally, like for a while I was not the biggest horror movie fan, but I've definitely come around to appreciate it more. And my opinion is that the best horror movies aren't just horror movies, if that makes sense. There's always something else there. There's always a little bit extra genre bending or something else in there. And also like I usually go for horror movies that are more like cinematic, you know, to be pretentious about it, than like just going for scares. Which this movie does give scares. There are good jump scares. There's good suspension building, but it is also like a good movie, and I think that's important distinction.
It is.
It gives you everything. I mean, it made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me anxious. It made me scared. Yeah. And it was unbelievable. And I was like, sometimes, I mean, when the bar scene when they're all like cheering, they're drinking together, I'm just over there like vibing out with all the lads. And I love that they had like Scottish accents the whole entire time. It like was amazing to watch that.
That was also I just want to shout out that scene too for like the way that the editing, because I think we can definitely talk a little bit more of the editing of this movie. But the way it mixes in like them running for their lives from the zombie and everyone in the bars be like, yeah, like,
the contrast
it's so like it's funny, but it's just like it's so fun because like they're so close together, like physically, but like the fact that it's like the dramatic irony of like, oh, they don't know what's been going on, and like the whole like idea of like the son being like, no, I didn't do this much, but his dad like pushing off and drinking off his sorrows of like the trauma he just went through is just like very well done. And again, credit to like Aaron Taylor Johnson's performance and to Alfie Williams' performance there. Just like a quick shout out I had to say.
Indeed. Well, you heard it. Horror movies are good. Next week, we're going to go see if superhero movies are still good. James Gunn, we've talked about it. We've done your trailer breakdown. We did it for the Thunderbolts look ahead. We've talked about your movie a lot. So please, next week's the week. Don't let me down. I'm literally shaking in my tights, my boots. I've got my cape ready. Okay? I need it to be good. Come back next week because we will be going to see Superman if I'm dragging Brett by his shoelaces into the theater.
We're going to be seeing F1 the movie too. And Brad Pitt has been driving a McLaren, and I've been watching the F1 season this whole entire time. So you better be prepared for that review too, because Ford versus Ferrari and Rush are two of my favorite movies ever. We're going to see if that lives up to it. But I mean, I'm hyped to see Brad Pitt driving a Formula One car and bringing an entertaining spin to it. It's going to be amazing.
We gotta do a combined review too.
Oh my gosh.
Compare and contrast.
Get your own mic. Get your own mic back.
Very Brett coded movie and very Gavin coded movie. It'd be a very interesting thought experiment.
It's going to be fun.
Interesting. All right.
See you next week, lads.
See you then.
Appreciate you guys.